Praise his name. Well, it's good to be here today. Last week we looked at an introductory message. We listened to that. And there are a number of things that we hopefully can remember from that. Fact is that Yahweh is an Elohim, a God of covenant. And the fact that where his covenants are concerned, he is the initiator. We heard that when he wrote the terms of the covenant, he did not sit down and have communion or have a debate or debates with anyone. He simply wrote the terms of the covenant. And he expected the ones who were in covenant relationship with him to live by the terms of the covenant. He didn't leave them on their own. He didn't even leave them to do it in their own strength. Because he said, I'm going to be your Elohim. I'm going to be with you. So whatever they needed in order to fulfill the terms of those covenants could be received. And many proved that it was possible to live and walk in the terms of the covenants laid down by the Almighty. We also realized that Yahweh is incomparable. There is none like him. He is magnificent. He is awesome. This is the one with whom we are in covenant relationship. He's faithful. He's powerful. He's loving. He is kind. There is no place big enough on earth to contain him. That's the person. And we understand that covenant is an agreement made between at least two individuals. At least two individuals. This week, we're going to look at covenant planet, or the covenant that Yahweh cut and made with the entire creation. So come with me, brothers and sisters. Now let's look at the race, the human race. When Yahweh created Adam, mankind, he gave them a gift. And that gift was long life. Long life. Who can tell me who was the longest liver on earth? Sorry? Oh, you're not sure, are you? And who was the second longest liver on earth? Oh, dear. That's Fox Stew, isn't it? Enoch? Well, actually, Enoch is still alive, so, he's still going on. I think it was Jared. He lived to be 962 years old. Methuselah lived to be 963 years old. So we saw the longevity of life. And that was possible because Yahweh inbreathed into man his own breath. The man that was made in his image. I mean, that's poignant, that's important. Man was to be like Yahweh. So there was the capacity in that breath that he breathed into man, the capacity to live forever. Now we sing the song, anybody here want to live forever? That was given to mankind when Yahweh breathed into us. But this long life, the ability to live long life, could have proved dangerous for the human race after sin. So it was curtailed. Firstly, by sin. And secondly, by Yahweh's own intervention. Remember him speaking to Noah? He said, your days will be 120 years. 120 years later, the flood came. upon the earth. Now, it was curtailed because of the wickedness that was prevalent in the world at that time. The wickedness of the race was unimaginable. Unimaginable. Genesis chapter 6 will tell you. And Yahweh was extremely saddened by it. You know, it seemed that fallen angels had intermingled with the race, resulting in monstrous beast-like attributes infesting the race. Hordes of demonic forces were let loose on the human race. Their actions and how they related to each other was so incredibly evil and wicked that Yahweh, their loving creator, had to do something about it. Brothers and sisters, he had to do something about it. Their deeds were so unbelievably evil. Yahweh, as I said, had to intervene. We see evil in our world today, don't we? Which caused the entire world to cringe. But what happened back then, we cannot even begin to imagine the scale of the brutality mankind had sunk to. I believe even beasts and animals would have recoiled. Is that painting a terrible picture? So Yahweh had to do something. He had to do something. For Yahweh, according to the scriptures, the one remedy for that was total destruction of the race. Is that a true statement? Yeah? Total destruction of the race. No, it was not true. It wasn't true. Because Noah and his family, they came through that awful testing and terrible time. They went through the trial, through the battle, and came through. You see, Yahweh had made man in his image, and the purpose for making man was that he would have fellowship with man. That is immutable. That is irreversible. That is unalterable. He will have humanity in intimate fellowship with himself. And this is where our hero, Noah, comes in. Now, Noah was the son of Lamech, not the one who boasted and said, after he killed a man, who boasted and said, if Cain's what Yahweh said, you will have a sign on you, or whatever he said, I can't remember about it. But he said, mine will be 7 times. What a boast. Not that one at all. His line was from Cain, wasn't it? That Lamech. This one, his lineage, was from Seth. So Noah was the son of Lamech, who was the son of Methuselah, who was the son of Enoch. So Noah was the great-grandson of Enoch. Enoch was a righteous man. The Bible said he walked with Yahweh and never faced death. Yahweh took him. What a testimony. He walked with Yahweh. Oh, there's a song that I love to hear sing. And he walked with me. And he talked with me. Along. This man walked with Yahweh. Now, this testimony isn't from another man, you know. It was the Holy Spirit who inspired Moses to write this. He walked with Yahweh, and Yahweh took him. So I believe Enoch and certainly Methuselah would have made a great impression on the life of this young man, who was to be the means through whom Yahweh would preserve a remnant for his name. He would become the father of the race post-flood. The Bible says Noah found grace in the eyes of Yahweh. Genesis chapter 6 and verse 8. Hebrews said it was by faith. So the question I wanted to ask before I made that last statement was, how did Noah manage to find favor or grace in the sight of Yahweh? All right, he had all those ancestors to have copied and walked or imitated them. But the Bible says it happened by faith. Hebrews 11 and verse 7. Now faith comes by hearing by the... So his ancestors, they feared Yahweh, they knew Yahweh, they passed on their experience and their love through their example, through their lifestyle to Noah, who listened and came on board. The Bible also says that Noah was a righteous man. He was blameless among the people of his time. He walked with Yahweh. Hey, come on. Are you hearing me? Are you hearing some similar words? He walked with Yahweh. And these are the very words used of his great-grandfather, Noah. Enoch, thank you. Is the Spirit saying anything to you and me today about walking with Yahweh? Listen, we are not encouraging you to walk with the things that the films are saying we should walk, the kids should walk with. Walking with dinosaurs, walking with this, walking with that. We are saying it's important that we walk with Yahweh. Noah walked with Yahweh. Too often we walk with other things, our imagination, our minds, and the things that we want to do, but not Yahweh. So in my opinion, he was found blameless, he was righteous, because of his own relationship, his own faith, an unswerving dedication and commitment to Yahweh. That, or those attributes, enabled him to swim against the prevailing tide of iniquity that was rampant in his day. Because he walked with Yahweh. We are living in an age that is similar to the days of Noah. And Yeshua prophesied and said, in the last days, the love of most will grow cold. In other words, they will swim with the tide. We are called to be like Noah, walking with Yahweh, irrespective of the consequences. Whether we are cut off from the mainstream of humanity, cut off from the church, cut off from our families, cut off from everything, walk with Yahweh. So when Yahweh came looking for a man to stand in the gap, there was our man, Noah. He knew Yahweh, and Yahweh knew him. Yahweh knew that he could trust him with a project that would preserve his promise made to humanity. Can Yahweh trust us? Can he trust me? He's always looking for a man. He's always looking for someone to stand in the breach. And up jumped our man, our hero, Noah. ready to stand. Not only that, Yahweh knew he could trust him. So Yahweh spoke to Noah concerning the flood. You know, Yahweh said something once when he was about to destroy Lot. You see, Yahweh has friends, you know that? He's got friends. And I like to talk to my friends when I see them. But I like to talk to my friends. And sometimes, you know, I think I was saying to my friend that I have changed somehow. There were days when I would just let everything rip from my mouth, Beth. You know, all right. But I'm married to a wife who is the very opposite. She will only give you what she thinks you should get. And somehow, am I being disingenuous to Yahweh when I say that it's rubbed off on me? That's what I like to talk to my friends. So Yahweh said, shall I not tell my friend Abraham of what I'm about to do down there? Yahweh had a friend called Noah. And so he elected to tell him of what was about to happen and to bring him on board. So he spoke to Noah and he told Noah about the flood and he gave him the blueprint. He told him exactly what to do and perhaps said to him, do it, build it according to the pattern that I've laid down. So, how did he speak to Noah? Any ideas? Well, all I can say is that he spoke to Noah. Noah heard him. He got the direction. He obeyed. He acted on faith based on his own relationship with Yahweh. His faith acted upon little or no historical evidence or foundation or observation. Remember, up until this point, there had been no understanding of the concept of a flood or an absolute judgment on mankind that would wipe out almost every living creature. So the righteousness of Noah, his obedience to Yahweh, secured his own salvation and made a way for a promise that would apply to the entire creation. Yahweh's covenant throughout every generation would demonstrate his commitment to a worldwide people, his children. These people would be his. And hence, this statement that has been immortalized, spoken by Yahweh, and we heard them last week. You will be my people. I will be your Elohim, and I will dwell among you. This is the core message that ties all the specifics of each covenant together as one. The Noahic Covenant establishes the basis, the foundation for the story of Yahweh's commitment to creation, particularly the preservation of life on earth. It establishes the parameters of the story. Yahweh's activity reaches out to embrace not only humanity, but also the created animals and the earth. And it provides an anticipation of the conclusion of the story of redemption. Yahweh's judgment on sin, salvation of the righteous, and the renewal of the creation. Now, as we heard last week, the first mention of the word covenant is found in Genesis chapter 6 and verse 18, where we find Yahweh giving instructions regarding the up and coming flood. And this is what he says. He says, I am going to bring flood waters on the earth to destroy all life under heavens. Every creature that has the breath of life in it, everything on earth will perish. But I will establish or confirm or continue my covenant with you, and you will enter the ark, you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you, to every kind of bird, two of every kind of bird, of every creature that moves along the ground will come with you into the ark. So, at the risk of making you feel as if I'm going to be a lot longer, we're going to look at the essence of the covenant, what is actually at the heart of the covenant, the terms of the covenant, that is, what did Yahweh actually say about it, and the uniqueness of the covenant, what is special, different about the covenant. So the essence of the covenant, the Noahic Covenant at its core is a covenant of preservation, and I have added this word, safeguarding. And I'm going to be using it because we are living in a world today, in schools, in hospitals, wherever you work, the term safeguarding is of paramount importance. So Yahweh made a covenant of preservation, of safeguarding that which he has made. It is not necessarily understood exclusively as a salvation covenant, yet it does guarantee that Yahweh will not destroy the world until his plan to save a people has been accomplished. This covenant we are looking at is a covenant made with all living creatures. Now, it could be argued that the Noahic covenant is a restatement of the covenant Yahweh had made with Adam in the Garden of Eden. Did you know that he made a covenant with Adam and Eve in the garden? We call it the Edenic covenant. Although no mention is made, actually, of the word covenant. No mention can be found, really, in Genesis regarding the Edenic covenant in terms of the word itself being used. But it is commonly accepted that the consequences spoken by Yahweh after the fall and offered to Adam formed the terms of the Edenic covenant. For me, it is important to note that the terms of this covenant could be said, and I'm just repeating myself, could be said to form the basis of the covenant made in Eden with Adam and Eve. Now, one writer by the name of Peter Gentry, this man embraces New Covenant theology. He says this: when God says that he is confirming or upholding his covenant with Noah, he is saying that his commitment to his creation, the care of the Creator to preserve, provide for, and rule over all that he has made, including the blessings and ordinances that he initiated through and with Adam and Eve and their family, are now to be with Adam and his descendants. That's his view. So there are certain things I would like us just to consider. When Yahweh makes a promise, he is bound by his own oath to fulfill it. His righteousness and his judgment demands that that be so. Therefore, Noah and his descendants and all creation were sure to benefit. So we, who are in covenant relationship with Yahweh, we can be assured that he will keep us from falling, and he will present us faultless before him on that day. Isn't that marvelous? Now, Yahweh will do everything in his power to ensure that that happens. He will purge us from all sin. He will purge us from all unrighteousness. And Yahweh will destroy anything and everything that is a threat to that. That being the desire that his people will be his people. Secondly, we look at the terms of the covenant. And they are these. Genesis chapter 9 and verse 1. Yeah, somebody would like to read that for me, please?
And Yahweh blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth.
Thank you very much. Now, if we are conversant with the covenant and the commands that were given to Adam and Eve, we will realize that it was a repeat of what was said to Adam here to Noah. The animals would fear mankind. How does that compare with what Yahweh said to Adam? Have dominion and rulership over the animals. For some reason, it doesn't seem to be working that way, and yet in a way it does. Because most wild animals, if they see humanity, they will run, won't they? They want to be away. Because something has been instilled in them. Man has dominion over animal life, and plant life, and bird life. Yahweh gives meat and fish and everything that is on the earth, in the waters or in the air, has food to mankind. Prior to that, it didn't seem that was the case, was it? It seems that prior to this, all men were like Gemros, vegetarians and Alcott. I've just made a statement. I just want you to think about it. Was mankind vegetarians before this? You see, there's one person who absolutely believes that. Was mankind vegetarians before this? Sorry? So why are we craving after meat today? It would seem from Scripture that meat was not given to man by Yahweh to eat at that particular time. It would seem so. Whether man killed and ate animals or birds, I don't know, but it would seem that the Almighty said it pretty clearly. This is how you should be, and this is what you should eat. But here, there is a change. He is saying that I have given you all the green herbs. That was reiterated. But then he goes on to say you can eat meat from animals that are clean. But there's one stipulation. And those of you who like, when you go to your restaurants and you like your meat with a little bit of blood in it, what do they call it? Those of you who are like that, listen to what he says. Man is not allowed to eat anything that still has blood in it. there suddenly is a quiet and a chill in here. Is that because there are some people who like a little bit of the redness in there? So why wasn't it possible? Why wasn't it allowed that we should eat a little bit of, rare steak? Because the essential life that is in man, which came from the Almighty, is actually in the blood. And there are some people who have taken it to a particular extreme. Now, I'm not being critical. I'm saying that's where they've chosen to take it. That may be their revelation. And for that reason, they will even allow their young or even relative who may need blood to die. Now, you judge. I am not debating that today. I'm saying Yahweh says you can eat meat if you so desire, but make sure that you don't eat the life. So since man is made in the image of Yahweh, he must give his life or have it taken if he takes the life of another who is also made in the image of Yahweh. And this, I've built this around Genesis chapter 9, verses 5 and 6. So, is the concept of capital punishment here initiated? Are you following me? You still out there? Was it Yahweh who was the initiator of capital punishment? A life for a life. I've got a solicitor here. What's your view? I would agree, and I would say yes, with this little caveat. Proof was always needed. Proof was always needed back then, and it is still needed today. Because there can be some trigger-happy people who will just kill because they have a strong urge for revenge without knowing the truth. And the Elohim of heaven, who actually brought that into being, if you study the decrees that were given to Israel when they went into the promised land, there were, 7 or 11 cities of refuge that were actually set aside for the Israelites. So if somebody murdered somebody or killed somebody, they could flee to that place of refuge. So even in the heart of the Almighty, there was something there that was saying, it needs to be honest, it needs to be true, it needs to be because of justice, not simply because of revenge. And if my solicitor friend was up here speaking today, he could fill you in the legal side much more better than I can. It's certainly necessary. I believe Yahweh initiated this as a form of deterrent so that we wouldn't be trigger happy and kill each other. This covenant is Yahweh's promise to creation, irrespective of human sin. It guarantees that the life will continue to flourish and that natural order shall continue. Hence, the importance of the promise of seasons in Genesis 8:22. And here Yahweh guarantees the stable conditions necessary for the production of crops and food, which in turn is essential for the growth and the spread of both human and all other forms of life on earth. Could I suggest to you that this covenant, the Noahic Covenant, and one other, can truly be said to be the only two covenants that are wholly unconditional? I said wholly unconditional. You agree with that? It can be debated, can't it? If you want to ask me what's the other one, then I will tell you. The other one is the new covenant. That is unconditional. And I think when we think about it, think about the word I use, the adjective, wholly, wholly unconditional. I'm going to say something in a few moments which may contradict that statement, but wait for it. Yahweh not only confirms his covenant to creation, but here sets in place the beginnings of human government. How life is to be exercised through relationships, human to human, and human to animal. So let us consider these things here for a moment. Knowing Yahweh's feeling about his own creation, do believers have a responsibility towards the environment? Do you religiously separate your garbage so that you recycle things that are to be recycled? What about the care for the creation itself? And what about the care for the natural order of things? How important are relationships and the way we treat each other, one another, believers and unbelievers alike? How important is that, and how necessary is that? This covenant, within this covenant, these questions are asked. They're there. Yeshua said we should love one another. That is part of the new covenant which he himself stated. That is, for me, a timeless requirement of the immutable covenant of Yahweh. And here it is again. You can see this same truth in the Sinaitic covenant. If you look at the 10 words, can be divided into two. The first part is respect for Yahweh, and the second part is respect for humanity. Love Yahweh, love, and treat each other with dignity and with respect. It's the passion, I believe, of the heart of divinity. And so it should be in the lives and interrelationships of those who are made in his image. And so lastly, we look at the uniqueness of the covenant. Now, once Noah and his family had been obedient to Yahweh's command and came through the flood, promises were made that affected the whole planet Earth, and all that is on it. These promises, brothers and sisters, as I said earlier, are unconditional. Unconditional. Meaning, nothing man does or doesn't do will alter the terms of these promises. Can we agree with that? All we have to do is note the seasons. Just note the seasons. Every year, spring, summer, autumn, and winter, irrespective of where you are in the earth. When I was a boy, I didn't understand the principle of the seasons at all. Because even in Jamaica, where it's a hot climate, there are times of the year, the right time, you know which time, when trees begin to shed their leaves. We didn't have electric cookers or gas cookers. We had to go out and get firewood for our parents. So when I walked in the woods and saw the trees shedding their leaves, I thought they were dead. And tried to break a branch off only to find it was green. It was the law of Yahweh coming into place. Autumn, the leaves were falling off. I didn't know that. Also, note the rainbow in the sky. It's there to remind us, to remind Yahweh of the promises he made. Now, I said earlier that the Noahic Covenant and the other covenant, which I have identified as the New Covenant, are two which I consider as being wholly unconditional. And this is because, well, the word says so about the Noahic Covenant anyway. But I'm going to suggest to you that obedience, a vital ingredient, runs throughout all of these covenants. Every one of them, there was a requirement for obedience. You see, Noah and his family were commanded to repopulate the earth. Yes? And in a sense, that makes obedience to this command a condition to the promise. Hello? And I'm just going to repeat something. Obedience lies at the heart of covenants, of the covenants. Now, because I am in covenant relationship with Yahweh, I cannot say that I am free from the responsibility of obedience to what he says to me. Can I? I cannot say that. There were some people, though, who felt they could be disobedient to Yahweh on the basis of the fact that they were sons of Abraham. And what did John the Baptist say about them? Don't you say that you are sons of Abraham, and therefore, because the axe is actually laid at the root of the tree. And Yahweh is able at any time to raise up from these stones sons unto Abraham. So obedience is important. But let me just say something to you, and then you can debate it with me later if you like. The reason why I believe that these covenants are unconditional, even though I've said what I've just said, is this. Obedience is something that Yahweh places in the heart of the individual who seeks to serve him. The New Covenant actually says, and Joel prophesied, that the day will come when there will be a desire and an inclination within the man or the woman to want to do that which is right. So the fact of the matter is, when I am obedient to Yahweh, when the New Covenant is working inside of me, there is an automatic desire to do what is right in Yahweh's sight. It is something that happens. Because my whole inside, the clockwork of myself, is actually unwound and retensioned, meaning I am now free to serve Yahweh unconditionally. the word also continued to say, they shall all know me. The only sort of example I could bring forward that helped my thinking, I don't know if it'll help yours, is this. As anyone in here dog lovers? Beryl, I know you are a dog lover. Anyone else have dogs in here? Yeah? What's your relationship with your dog like? You see, dog is said to be man's best friend. What will the dog do when it's commanded by its master? Sorry? If it has a good master, it will obey. If it's trained, it will obey. So all those things are pointing to those of us who are close to Yahweh, who's given our hearts to Yahweh, who've surrendered ourselves to Yahweh. The dog doesn't do it simply because it's trained. That's one of the things. But there is a love in the dog for its master. And it will do anything the master says. Now, we who love Yahweh and truly love Yahweh, and the heart that is sold out for him, will do whatever he says to us. So for me, obedience runs through the heart of all of the covenants. And even though it may appear to be a condition, the fact is, it is not a problem, because inside of me there is something that desires to do it. Now, this covenant is also an everlasting covenant, and it lasts as long as the earth exists. The terms of the covenant was never repeated, in Scripture. So we are led to believe that it stands until this day. It is an eternal covenant, Genesis 8:22, but one day the earth will cease to exist. Only then will these promises cease. It remains in force as an unconditional covenant until this present heaven and earth are passed away. 2 Peter 3:10-13. Once that happens, the Noahic Covenant would have essentially fulfilled its purpose. Now, the sign of the covenant is the rainbow in the sky. This, when we see it, it is perpetual, it is continuous, it's long-lasting. It's a long-lasting reminder that there will not be a premature ending of this world, this earth, till all those whom Yeshua died for understands and receives saving grace. This is part of the covenant of safeguarding and preservation. This sign is also a reminder to Yahweh of his commitments as it is to humankind. It's a prompt to Yahweh to remind him of his own covenant, regardless of how terrible conditions on the earth become. A man called Harlan points out this. He says, in Hebrew, memory was not just a recollection, but the putting into effect of an action. So when Yahweh remembers his covenants, he intervenes. So we can be assured that underlying the history of nature and the history of mankind is an unconditional covenant. There is a divine yes to all life And this cannot be shattered by any catastrophe in the course of history, nor by any mistakes or corruption of mankind. So it doesn't matter, brothers and sisters, what North Korea does. How many people had fear struck in their hearts when that regime announced that it fired a bomb with the capacity to reach up to 6,000 miles? It doesn't matter what ISIS may do, their threats to destroy those who do not bow to Allah. It doesn't matter what evil man may bring upon this planet. Those things will not bring this planet to extinction. Yahweh has committed himself to safeguard it. Yahweh's promise remains rock certain as long as the earth exists. So, as we close, consider the faithfulness of Yahweh to his people and to all his promises, in spite of their leanings, in spite of our own leanings towards sin. And also the threats, as I said, from terrorism and so on and so forth. Climate changes and all that sort of thing. Yahweh is faithful. Consider symbols and signs. The rainbow was a symbol and a sign to Noah. It is the same to us today. That tells us and reminds us that Yahweh is faithful. So today, what images and what signs, what symbols do we have to remind us of Yahweh's love and Yahweh's faithfulness to us, his children? Is there anything that you can think of? The cross. Anything else? The breaking of bread. Brothers and sisters, we can be assured that Yahweh will keep his words. This covenant is an everlasting covenant while ever the earth remains. So the Noahic Covenant shows that the parameters of the covenant are as wide as the creation itself. In this covenant, Yahweh reaches out to the whole creation. The creation-wide scope of this covenant is shown by three distinct partners to the covenant given in chapter 9 of Genesis. And here we see that Yahweh is the initiator. He had no counsel. He had no partner. He set the terms and conditions. And these are the three. Yahweh covenants with all humanity, verse 8 of the chapter. Yahweh covenants with every living creature, verses 9 to 11. Yahweh covenants with the earth, verse 13. Today, brothers and sisters, the whole creation is groaning in labor pains, and it's longing for the revelation of Yahweh's long-awaited and Yahweh's supreme act of restoration. The whole earth is groaning and waiting, and it's looking towards us, human beings, because the creation was placed under our trust. We were made overlords under Yahweh of the entire creation. It's looking towards us. And so lastly, the Noahic Covenant provides the essential framework for the rest of the redemptive history, including all the other biblical covenants. So may Yahweh bless you.